Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, which is brought to you by Shared Services Link and in association with HighRadius. Today, we're looking at how Air Products transformed its accounts receivable function using RPA. So my name is Susie West, and I'm the founder and CEO at Shared Services Link, and I'm your host for today, and I'm delighted to be presenting my two guest speakers, Jay Chakarov, who is VP Product Manager at HighRadius, and CB Ananthan, who is Manager of Global Credit at Air Products. You, of course, have a key role to play, which is to make sure that you get your questions answered. So those of you that are familiar, you know what you need to do. Just post those questions through to me nice and early. For those of you that this is the first time on a Shared Services Link webinar, you have a box for questions, which you just need to write your questions in and submit those to me. I'll put those questions to our presenters in the last 10 minutes of this webinar. It's generally better if you can get those questions to me sooner rather than later, as I do pretty much ask the questions in the order that they came. So as far as the agenda for today is concerned, we've got a packed 60 minutes ahead of us. I'm going to be touching briefly on the context, and then I'm going to be handing over to Jay from HighRadius, who's going to be giving us an overview of a bit of an introduction to shared services and some of the advantages and barriers to adoption. And he's going to be sharing with us some great stats on best practices and on RPA as well. Then we're going to be handing off to CB, and CB is going to be sharing with us his very interesting Air Products story, looking at their journey that they've taken with shared services and accounts receivable, and how they have brought in RPA into their shared services and accounts receivable world. He'll then be looking at the lessons learned. And then we'll be handing back to Jay for a few more comments, and then be taking Q&A from the floor. So let's talk about a little bit of context for now. Shared services as a concept has been around now for 20 years, and many shared services organizations have accounts receivable within them, and the common functions that are within accounts receivable shared services include collections management, credit management, financial reporting, and of course billing. And when you look at the comparison between those shared service organizations that are operating receivables in a very process efficient way versus those that are underperforming organizations, it's really quite stark. We're looking at those that are running accounts receivable very efficiently and are kind of top performers, running their shared services at 10% of the cost of the cost of underperforming organizations. So huge comparison and huge kind of reason to make sure that you're applying as many of the best practice recommendations as possible. One of the best practice recommendations is, of course, technology, and there's been a significant development in the last number of years with the introduction and application of RPA, robotic process automation. And this is a game-changing technology that is being applied at a relatively speaking significant pace. When I talk to shared services organizations, certainly when I was talking to them last year, about 10% of those that I was talking to were in kind of pilot stage or deployment stage, and now that figure 1 year on is around the quarter mark. So we're seeing a real adoption, high adoption as far as the adoption of RPA is concerned. So with that, I would now like to introduce our first speaker from HighRadius. Over to you, please, Jay.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. I'd like to kick us off a little by talking a little bit about HighRadius and giving some of the background on how RPA, or robotic process automation, really comes to play a key role in enabling shared service centers to really be successful and join the top performing peers. So a little bit about HighRadius. We've been around for about 10 years, and since the beginning we've been focused on credit and AR, or the credit to cash cycle. Very much focused on technology. We have more than 300 employees in research and development, and we're one of the fastest growing companies in our space. Outside of our partnership with sharedserviceslink, we also have partnerships with a lot of other organizations in our space, organizations that are also focused on educating their membership group and also spreading the news about technology and best practices around credit and accounts receivable. Here's some of our customers. As you can see, a lot of multinational companies that really have leveraged our technology inside of their AR teams and inside of their shared services center. Air Products is one of the companies we're proud to call partners in this effort as well. And I'm very excited to be here and to support CB and Anthony in his presentations as well. So when we're talking about the advantages and barriers of shared services, specifically in the credit and AR functions, there's a number of processes that have really lent themselves very nicely to the shared services model. Everything from invoicing customers, performing reporting, obviously, processing AR, a lot of the manual tasks, a lot of the back office, but also a lot of the more customer-facing things, much like processing and managing collections as well. So there's a number of processes inside of the credit and AR function that have really been adopted by shared services and really are driving some of the economies of scale and improvement in efficiencies that shared service is meant to realize for an organization. And why is that? There's a number of advantages. One, you want to reduce the cost of the finance ops. Again, these aren't things that will really drive your top line revenue. It's not something that is going to really grow your business, but it's something that is almost like the necessary evil. You have to be good at efficiently executing your credit and AR to really be successful and move your business forward. But doing this at a reduced cost is something that shared services brings to the table. Better utilization of technology investment, being able to scale it across the AR team or across the shared services center and propagate those best practices. Because now you can have in place a system of control, a system of a framework of compliance, KPIs in place, business intelligence, so you can identify best practices, identify areas of concerns, and really spread those best practices across the shared services team, in effect helping scale up as the business grows, as the extra volume comes in from that growth, extra volume of work, but also bringing those best practices to the customer service area, being able to treat your customers better, establish stronger relationships, focus on strategic accounts and make sure that they're happy and they continue to do business with you. And we talk about scaling, the ability of the shared services to scale technology, and robotic process automation is one of the things that has really been enabled shared services centers to do better, to do more and do more of their work without necessarily growing the team. So, is every shared services center successful? Every implementation of the process across corporations? No. As Susie mentioned earlier, there's a giant difference between the top performers and the bottom performers. Even if you look at median, the companies that are average or in the middle, the bottom performers really are lagging behind. I mean, this is a factor of 10. So there's a huge difference and a huge opportunity to improve. And when you look at the barriers to adoption, why are some of them more successful than others? There is one, you need to make sure that you plan your your project correctly and make sure that everything is in place, but also leveraging IT infrastructure and automation. These are the two things that really are driving the difference between the top performance and the bottom performance. Again, making sure that you plan and execute your initiatives correctly and leveraging technology and automation. And this is where robotic process automation is key to success. So if we look at some of the best practices, then there's three ingredients of success. One, governance. This goes well with the project management and the design that we talked about earlier. You have to make sure you have the right structure, the right culture that will continuously look at opportunities for improvement and how to take those best practices, how to identify them, how to scale them up across the team. And making sure that on the one hand, there's strong, consistent communication at all levels about the value, about the mission of the shared service center, but also look to make sure that the right people have the right power to do their work, rather than a function or a power structure and a structure of control that doesn't really fit the mission of the shared service team. This goes hand in hand on the right side here with the SLAs. Make sure that you have the right KPIs that are aligned with your objectives. Make sure that you can monitor those and identify top performers versus bottom performers, because the top performers, you want to realize what is it that they're doing right that you can scale up across the team, whereas the bottom performers, these are your opportunities for coaching. Identify why they're not performing up to par. Make sure that you rectify any issues that are showing up there. And of course, this needs to be linked to a system of rewards for performance that is completely aligned with the mission of the shared service center. Okay. The third critical piece here, and this is where the robotics process automation comes in, is technology. Make sure that you look at what technology can do for you. What is the best-in-class system for your individual processes? Consider everything from analytics to make sure that you can get good visibility into your team's performance, good visibility into all the opportunities for improvement, but also look at self-service applications if you can, something that you can do on your own quickly without necessarily bogging down a large amount of IT resources or budget. Robotic process automation is key. And why do I say this? We've seen over the last few years, technology has moved a lot away from simply managing tasks and providing visibility to automation. And what I mean by automation, we're not talking about replacing a paper-based process with a computer-based one that is exactly the same. Now, instead of writing notes on a sheet of paper, you're typing them in a field on the screen. That's not automation. That's just moving away from paper. Robotic process automation is key to looking at each business process and identifying manual repetitive works that are tying down your resources. And what we've seen is by the 80-20 rules, 20% of the work will take 80% of the time. And unfortunately, those 80% of the time are not necessarily the highest impact things. Things like applying cash, things like tracking down documentation, trying to reach out to different team members to find on whose desk or on whose plate is a specific dispute case. Who needs to review that credit report next? Do they have all the information? Do we have the credit reports to make a decision on this account? Do we have the right credit insurance? All the right information. Tracking that down is taking up a lot of time. Robotic process automation can take all of this manual work, do it for you, and present a research-ready case. So your analyst can just go in there, and they will have all the information they need to make a decision. So you're focusing your shared services team on making decisions rather than looking and fetching information and performing clerical tasks. And specifically in terms of robotic process automation in AR, there are three top areas where we're seeing a lot of adoption. Automating correspondence, that's very key across collections and deductions processes. There's a lot of back and forth that goes on. Right now, it's something that you may need to do manually, create those letters, send them out. Some systems allow a level of basic automation. You need to still look into that, fine-tune, customize to specific customers, but then still send it. With automated correspondence, theoretically, you could handle all of that. The RPA can automate this fully. Claims automation, again, looking at disputes and deductions, eliminate the clerical tasks of fetching the dispute backup, the claim, the debit memo, all the information that's needed to make a decision. Claims automation can fetch that for you so that it in effect replaces your clerical activities and automates them fully. Automating credit scoring, pulling in all the information that's needed to make a decision so that, again, your credit team can just focus on making decisions, setting terms, dealing with at-risk accounts instead of spending a lot of time across a lot of customers. And CB will go into more detail on this. But if you look at what automating correspondence, for example, can do is RPA allows you to identify strategies and rules that, based on the status of each account, the correspondence agent can create the right correspondence. In the case of disputes, they can create decision letters, dispute denials if you're denying a dispute. Collection correspondence can automate those dunning letters, set the reminders. And again, RPA can automatically send all of this out via email, fax, publish to websites, upload to websites directly, or it can be sent via the old paper mail route as well. But again, this is something that can automate 90% of the manual work for doing the correspondence. Similarly with claims automation, by fetching the claim from the customer or the dispute, the debit memo, now the claims automation engine can theoretically figure out what type of dispute it is. Let's put in some, if it's a shortage, we can pull in the proof of delivery data to make sure that it really was a shortage. Or if it's a trade promotion deduction, we can pull in the trade promotion. And now the data aggregation presents all the accumulated folder, if you will, with all the documentation that's needed to the analyst, who can then focus on making that decision. And again, leading to very significant improvement in productivity. And finally, the credit scoring, and that's one of the key pieces that Air product implemented as well, is pulling together all the information that's required to make a decision: public financial data, transaction, sales, payment data, insurance data, pulling it all in one place, running a credit scoring model to identify what are the at-risk accounts so that those are presented to the credit managers to make a decision. Again, the goal of robotic process automation is not to move you away from paper into a computer screen. It's to look at all your business processes and completely eliminate the need for your team to manually perform those clerical, repetitive manual tasks. And with that, I'll pass it back to Susie for our first poll question.
That's great. Many thanks indeed, Jay. So coming up on your screen now is our first poll question for the day. So it should be appearing with you shortly. What are the biggest challenges that you're facing in your shared services organization today? This is a multiple selection, so if you can see one that is appropriate, more than one that's appropriate, please do tick multiple boxes. Unrealistic KPIs that you're being faced with, perhaps insufficient staffing, organizational and communication challenges, no effective automation technology or not using existing technology to full potential, or perhaps you're in great shape and you're not faced with any real challenges today. So what are the biggest challenges that you're facing in your shared services organization today? Unrealistic KPIs, insufficient staffing, organizational and communication challenges across the shared services and across the business, no effective automation technology or ineffective use of current technology, or perhaps you're not faced with any challenges today. If you could let us know your responses to that. We're at 64% of you responding, and closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Great, we were at 67% of you responding there. So let's have a look at the breakdown of the results. At 40% of you say that you're struggling with no effective automation technology, or perhaps not using existing technology to full potential. That's 40% of you. And that's followed in second place by 37% of you struggling with organizational and communication challenges in the shared services or across the business. 13% of you are struggling with unrealistic KPIs, 7% insufficient staffing, and 3% of you have no challenges today. So interesting results there. Good. Now I'd like to hand over the floor, please, to CB, who's going to be telling us a little bit more about what they've been doing at Air Products. So over to you, please, CB.
Thank you, Susie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy to share my story, my company story of our journey, shared services journey. Let me tell you a bit about Air Products, the company. We have, I would like to draw your attention to the right-hand column, the numbers on the right-hand side. The geographical spread, we are in 50+ countries. The middle number there, I would like all of you to remember as we go through my presentation today, 170,000 ship-tos, a pretty large number. And we also serve over 30 industries, which then leads us to multiple business areas that we need to support. So what does Air Products do? What is Air Products about? We are primarily an industrial gas company. We supply atmospheric gases like oxygen, nitrogen, a little bit of argon, and also process gases such as hydrogen and helium. We are the largest hydrogen manufacturer in the world. And we also supply the equipment that is required to deliver these gases to various processes. We also have a niche in the liquefied natural gas industry. You may know it as LNG, and we have proprietary technology for equipment there. We are a business-to-business outfit. We are not a business-to-consumer outfit. That's something to keep in mind. We also have a materials technology business. We supply a lot of materials to the electronic sector, companies that make semiconductor chips, and also to a lot of chemicals to the automotive industry, the housing industry, the shipping industry, and so forth. We are in the process of spinning off the materials business by the end of September 2016. So we will, at the end of this year, we will primarily be an industrial gases company. The geographical footprint of Air Products is, as you see on this map, I'm going to use rough numbers here, about 50% in the Americas. Our largest market is the U.S. We are an American company, and so about 40% is in North America. About a quarter of our business is in Europe, and the remainder is in Asia, which currently is the fastest growing region for us. I would like to share some key dimensions which are going to be, I would ask that you remember these numbers as we go through the rest of my slides. As I mentioned earlier, we have 170,000 ship-tos, and for those ship-tos, we have 125,000 plus payers. These are business partners in SAP, but these are the ones that actually send us money for invoices that we generate. We process upwards of 6 million order line items in a year, and the number of invoices that we issue around the world is around 5 million invoices. So these are large numbers and form the basis for everything that I'm going to share with you going forward. So given the size of our customer portfolio, I want to share with you some of the historical pain points that we had, especially in the customer support services space, okay, the invoice to cash space or customer to cash space. The challenges fall, I've put them under three categories: the lack of standardization, objectivity, transparency. What are some of those examples where we lacked standardization? Many of you might remember or may still be using FD32 in SAP. A lot of the work in the credit risk assessment space had to be done manually. Everything was done outside of SAP. As a result, we had tremendous inconsistency between credit analysts and across regions. We did not use any type of risk scoring. Forget automated scoring, but did not have any really formal risk scoring mechanism. Dispute resolution took way too long. There was a lot of rework involved, and clearly that was an efficiency issue. The integrity of data, that we had difficulty with the quality of our data, and that also affected our compliance. So I'll talk about that in a few seconds. Our collection strategies, we had a lot of collection strategies across a lot of regions, across all our businesses, and that was not really optimized. And we had very little visibility into the productivity of our people in the customer to cash space. Correspondence, which is another area. When we have these many customers as we have, correspondence becomes a major issue. And if you're not standardized there, it causes issues with dispute resolution, also collecting money. So when we don't have standardization, there is an inevitable loss of productivity. So what are some of the examples? I mentioned FD32, which is a transaction in the standard ECC 6.0 version of SAP. Everything had to be done manually. Now, we could do mass updates, but then we were looking at IT resources, so we ended up doing a lot of the stuff by hand. Jay was referring to automation, which was really you moved from paper to computer to type in stuff. This is a good example of that. We did not have workflows, not automated, not manual workflows. So that was another area where we were really struggling. All data aggregation for credit and disputes was manual. Nothing was automated. And our ability to perform credit reviews on our existing portfolio was extremely constrained. 125,000 plus payers. We had a small credit team around the world, simply not able to manage that kind of volume. It also resulted in us being unable or being severely constrained in our ability to measure our functional performance. For example, I, as a global credit manager, did not have any visibility to the number of global credit reviews performed, how many blocked orders were reviewed and released or held, how many credit limit approvals were routed for higher level approvals and so forth, and very limited reporting. So bottom line, the situation that we were facing, this was many years ago, was we had a fair amount of waste in the customer to cash processes. We clearly had compliance challenges, and so we were always dancing with our auditors. The data quality was suspect, and our ability to manage this very large portfolio was limited. So the issues we had in the customer to cash arena, plus similar issues in the supplier services arena and employee services arena, were the seeds for our shared services solution. Okay, and Jay talked a little bit about shared services solution, and as did Susie. So what I'm going to talk about here were our expectations from our shared services solution, and I can tell you these are realized expectations of our shared services solution. Okay, so the obvious one is we were able to align our employee and customer and supplier support services across all businesses and within a region. And that also allowed us to align our SLAs, the service level agreements, and the KPIs that we developed to measure our performance against those service level agreements. Big improvement in our FTEs and the number of FTEs that we were able to leverage as part of the shared services solution. Efficiencies translate into cost savings. Management loves cost savings. And our shared services solution has clearly been a big enabler of cost savings for the company. We talked about governance and compliance, that being an issue in the customer to cash space. The way we are organized now helps us enormously in making sure that we're compliant with various standards, across the 50+ countries that we operate in, plus also ensure that we are able to comply with regulations such as the SOX compliance regime in the United States. We have laws around unclaimed property in the United States. We have laws around PCI compliance. So all of that has been enabled as a result of our shared services solution. What are some of the areas where we were able to standardize our processes? Credit scoring. Jay talked about robotic process automation. I'll talk more about credit scoring in that context. Clearly, we have been able to attain a lot of standardization across the world in these spaces: credit scoring, billing, resolving disputes, dispute management, sending out correspondence to a very vast number of our customers, and not at all unimportant, reporting. Reporting has been a big beneficiary of the way we are organized. Now, previously, we had all kinds of reports people were running, and really lack of consistency there, which impact our ability to see how we were performing in the AR space. So this has been a big improvement. Now that we are organized as a shared service, along shared service centers, there is critical mass now for us to leverage analytics. Okay, so we have resources within our company that allow us to utilize the voluminous information in our SAP implementation to continuously assess our performance and then improve on our processes. Our ability to respond to customers has increased significantly. We can see that in the rate of customer retention, in our growth rate, in our ability to deliver more results to the bottom line. So it has been a resounding success in that aspect. Again, agility in our ability to, in our financial operations in a changing environment. If there is one thing about business, it is that it's constantly evolving. When you think you have overcome one challenge, another one just appears right behind it. So it's obviously very important for us to be nimble to face those kind of challenges. So a little bit about how we are organized. We have chosen the regional cluster model for shared services instead of one global center. We have a pretty large geographical footprint, so it made sense. So we have a shared service center in Allentown. It's a suburb of Allentown, Trexlertown in Pennsylvania. We have one in a small suburb outside of Barcelona called Coronella, which supports all of EMEA. And we have shared service centers in Kuala Lumpur, which supports all of Asia with the customer support services, and a small shared service center in Shanghai for the supplier services. The organization chart shows at the top of the shared business services organization is the director. There are employee services managers. There are technical support services managers. We also support the trade compliance, portion of doing business, which is really, complying with all kinds of regulations, hazardous materials regulations, making sure that we don't fall into any boycott trap or trading with any, countries that we're not supposed to trade with, so forth. And you can see towards the right-hand side the regional manager positions for the 3 regions. I'm at the bottom of that chain there, being the manager for North America and also the global credit manager. We support the shared services, support customers, suppliers, employees, and also material master and so forth. One of the key things Jay talked about was the need for SLAs and KPIs, and we obviously were cognizant of that. So upon the heels of forming our shared services structure, we set about identifying our critical success factors, identified KPIs that we needed to measure to ensure that we were delivering on our promise, adhering to our service level agreements. So this is, what you're seeing here is a generic example, not specifically related to my company, but this gives an idea of the kind of thought process that needs to go into formulating KPIs and, basically KPIs. So an example here is faster customer onboarding. Who doesn't like that, right? We all want to make sure that customers are onboarded. So if the SLA, I would not have 1 week, but let's say, the onboarding time is a week. and our SLA for credit scoring is 3 days. We obviously need to make sure that we are compliant with these levels of service. And so we need to have KPIs around compliance. Are we compliant in terms of onboarding customers within a week and completing our credit scoring in 3 days? And to achieve that, one of the ways to do that is to standardize customer master data. So, what proportion of master data is automated or standardized? So we can have a bunch of KPIs to support this type of SLA. The owners would be the accounts receivable team, the credit team, and the sales team would be joint owners of that. Again, as we formed our shared services center, we also put a great deal of thought into our technology requirements. Technology is a great enabler. Jay mentioned that. He talked about RPA as automation as being an enabler, technology using RPA as a big enabler. So we use the following guiding principles in meeting our technology needs of the shared services organization. We went for a global system solution. We saw the virtues of having one global instance of SAP. Optimum automation. We could have gone crazy automating every single nuance in every single country where we had a presence. We chose not to do that. So the automation was optimized. We kind of forced convergence in many of our processes. We needed real-time data, so that was one of the key requirements. And the other principle was we wanted to minimize, not eliminate, but minimize the IT footprint. Traditional installations, technology installations require a lot of IT support. We wanted to move away from that and put more power in the hands of the functions. So those were the 4 guiding principles. So what did we do to satisfy that technology requirement? We went for solutions with SAP Solutions, and we also partnered with HighRadius on one of those pieces. So with SAP, we bought their suite of receivables management. It was formerly called FSCM. Some of you may recall that phrase, Financial Supply Chain Management. It's now called, it's a simpler word now, receivables management. There are 4 modules: credit management, biller direct, collections management, and dispute. We have 3 of these. We did not buy biller direct because we have a homegrown solution for that space. So we went live with these modules about 4 years ago. So I'm going to talk specifically about the benefits of receivables management for our products. We talked about efficiencies from our technology. Clearly, RM, receivables management, enables standardization across a function. So let me give you examples. Right? So we have derived a lot of efficiencies. One area is the order to cash. Clearly, I call it customer to cash, order to cash. But that's a space that has been a big beneficiary of the standardization. Some examples are real-time data on credit exposure. We did not have this previously. So, on past due AR, deductions, and disputes, all key pieces of information, key data in managing a very large customer portfolio across, all the major regions of the world. The information that's available from our systems allows us to make sure that we have our finger on the pulse when it comes to process consistency, process quality, and also allows us to continuously improve our processes through the use of SLAs and KPIs. I mentioned the better management of our large customer portfolio. The benefits of our processes and our systems is we have minimal disruptions to order management and fulfillment. We have customers that buy $100 worth of product a month to millions of dollars worth of products a month. So it becomes very important that we have technology to support our processes to manage that kind of diversity in our customer portfolio. And we do that with minimal disruption. Okay, so customers don't complain about missed orders and I guess improper fulfillment of the orders. Our risk assessment is very nimble, which is important in being able to manage a large business which is growing. I mean, we constantly add new customers, so we have to be able to support the business with nimble risk assessment. The visibility to deductions and disputes by root cause has also improved significantly through the use of dispute management, which is in receivables management. As I've mentioned a few times, our ability to comply with the various legislations around the world, support our compliance regime, that has become significantly better with the use of receivables management. And the last benefit, I cannot emphasize this enough, more power in the hands of the functions. So the credit power users can go and tweak things in the credit module, so scoring rules, for example, formulae for credit limit calculation, for example, setting up a new company code, where we're doing business, or setting up a new country where we're doing business. Those kinds of things can now be done by the credit analyst without having to go to an IT professional. So efficiency, speed, all those things have been vastly improved as a result of receivables management. We bought, so as part of receivables management, we bought credit management module, but we wanted to further supplement it. And to do that, we went with the HighRadius solution. It's called Credit Decision Accelerator. The acronym is CDA. So this is a great example where robotic process automation, comes into play. Jay mentioned about automating repetitive tasks, as opposed to simple automation where instead of typing it on paper, you're typing it in the computer. The very first, what are some of the features of CDA that we love, okay, and which has really helped us enormously, is the workflows that are available in that tool. The very first one that you see, business partner setup. If I look across the world, across all the regions where we do business, we set up hundreds of customers in the course of a month. I would say maybe in the course of a week as well. Okay, so to do that manually, inputting all the fields that you need to do to set up a customer, that could take a lot of manual labor. So we have chosen to automate the creation of our customers, the setup of our customers in receivables management. We have saved oodles of time by doing so. So that's a great example of RPA. Another one that I would say is the credit limit approval process. We have delegations of authority, which specifies who has what limit to approve. So depending on the credit limit being requested, the system automatically routes it to the next person. So you don't have to worry about it. It's all in how it's configured, and that's all done by the functions themselves, by the credit power user. We can integrate. We have been able to integrate our receivables management module with data providers, credit data providers, 6 of them across the world, and it works very well. Literally at the push of a button, we get information from these data providers coming to our environment. It gets organized. It drives the credit risk score. It drives the calculation of the credit limit. So it's a great example of RPA in play. We use about 5 scoring models around the world, 125,000 payers, and we fit them all under 5 scoring models. One scoring model is assigned, obviously, and so it has resulted in significant standardization, significant benefits in that space. And the credit limit calculation, it's objective, it's consistent around the world. It allows us to explain to our commercial partners why the limit has been reduced or increased or whatever. So it allows us to have meaningful conversations with our key business partners. So the benefits of CDA, if you recall, I was talking about the historical pain points in the credit space. So the benefits obviously are in those, have been recorded under those same categories. Productivity, what are some of the examples of productivity? I explained to you the manual tasks in the credit space have been significantly reduced. So we don't manually set up any customers. So everything is done automatically by the system. The workflows help drive the daily workload. So when the analyst comes in or the collector comes in or the dispute, the analyst comes in, they log on, boom, I mean, they start the morning with a work list, which is all organized in order of priority. So one might say it takes away the thinking. Not necessarily. It actually allows the analyst to think more. But there's a work list that shows up, and as long as they follow it, with a dose of healthy judgment, the outcome and the output becomes a lot better. Okay, so everyone across the board in the AR space has more time available for value-added tasks. And I will say this to you, around the world, over the years, we have reduced our personnel, we have taken on more work, and all that is possible because of the technology and because of the standardization of processes. Okay, so that leads me, it's a perfect segue to the next set of benefits in the area of standardization, objectivity, and transparency. Credit risk scoring across all regions, including credit limit calculation. So whether there's an analyst in Cornea or Kuala Lumpur or Sao Paulo or Flexler-Town, how they calculate the risk score, how they calculate the credit limit calculation is all the same. So, our ability to manage this tool is standardized. Our ability to interact with our commercial partners is standardized. The dialogue that we have with the commercial partners has become easier. And also, with the transparency, the objectivity associated with this kind of approach, that has been a big benefit. And the ability for us to effectively manage 125,000 payer portfolio, scheduling credit reviews, which ones should be reviewed at what frequency, all those things have been significantly enhanced with the use of CDA. And then we have adopted that very well across the world, a much loved solution. Clearly, from a functional standpoint, I, as a manager, now have visibility to the volume of work done by my team, whether it's collectors or analysts or dispute analysts. How many disputes did they resolve? How many calls did the collector make? How many interactions did they have? How many credit reviews did a credit analyst perform in the course of a month? All that type of information now becomes available. So the implementation timeline for our receivables management solution, this one specifically talks about the receivables management credit module, the credit management module, and the CDA. So this is something we did in partnership with HighRadius. So very impressed with the timeline, and I want to share that with you. So this is 2013. So we signed the contract with HighRadius in January. The blueprinting process began in February, and so that continued between over February and March. And then in April, we completed the functional specs. May was the time when we customized and configured. That was obviously HighRadius doing their bit with the solution. My team was assembled in Allentown from around the world to do testing, in-tech testing. July was taken up by developing training materials, job aids, and planning for the data conversion. And then on August 2013, we went live across all 4 regions in the world, one big implementation. And the best part was, in doing so, we did not stop business. There was no order that was processed incorrectly from day one. Okay, none of the orders were stopped. And I keep saying 125,000 payers. We actually loaded 320,000 business partners. Many of them, they had done business with us before. They were not active customers at that point, but we wanted those records in receivables management. So we ended up importing 320,000 business partners into receivables management and CDA. So very proud of this particular piece of implementation. Lessons learned, and when you do something like this, you kind of step back and say, what did we do well and what did we not do so well? So I'm just going to share with you, my sense of what helped us. So we spent a lot of time before we got HighRadius in mapping our existing processes in the different regions. Remember I told you we had tremendous inconsistency. Imagine analysts sitting in multiple countries doing their own thing outside of SAP, coming to different conclusions, perhaps, so we had to spend a lot of time in doing detailed mapping of the existing processes. That helped us a lot in identifying the opportunities for standardization. We gathered people from multiple disciplines, all the stakeholder groups that one could think of, and brought them all to one location for a pretty long data gathering process. Okay, it wasn't done in the course of 1 day or 2 days. It was done over the course of multiple days. Spent a lot of money doing that, but I can tell you the payback has been phenomenal. And anybody contemplating doing anything like this, I would strongly advocate spending enough resources in gathering data. We also paid visits. Literally, we visited companies that had adopted receivables management and who had some experience under their belt. So talking to them, listening to their experience and what would they have done differently, that was a huge benefit for us. So we could avoid pitfalls that they had encountered. So that was a big help. Clearly have to have an owner for this, somebody who has passion. And in this particular instance with the credit management module and CDA, that owner was me. And I enjoy what I do, so it was not a big stretch for me to own this project. Training power users and empowering them after the installation. You really need to let go and have other people own the tool. So that's what we have done at Air Products over the years. And so we have a network of very good power users, who feel really that they own the tool and they collaborate across the regions. They share their knowledge. They share best practices. All those things have helped in improving our functions, our systems over the years, our processes over the years. Reporting. I can never overemphasize the importance of reporting. Let's just remember SAP and any other tool, transactional tool, is just that. It helps with the transactions. They are not necessarily reporting tools. To be able to manage our processes, our functions, we need great reporting capabilities. So we spend a lot of time and resources in building out our reporting. And the last sentence is more like apple pie and motherhood. Aim high for the stars. Needless to say this, unless you set your sights high, what you end up with is not going to be adequate. So the message here is shoot for the stars, at least then you get to the moon, okay, which in itself is a good accomplishment. So those were the key lessons that I would like to share with you. And this is more a slide that shows how I felt before the implementation of receivables management, and that's me, almost a Superman with a cape. So I turn it now back to Jay.
Thank you, CV. And I just wanted to share some of the results that we have seen across our many customers whenever they deploy such RPA solutions. The improvement is very significant. It drives everything from efficiency gains, so your team can do more, but this ability to do more work and pay more attention and focus on a specific problem situation is directly responsible to reducing some of the higher level KPIs like DSO, realizing significant savings from DSO reduction and reducing the time it takes to turn around disputes as well. But again, it all starts with eliminating those manual tasks, deploying that technology so that RPA can do a lot of the dirty work for you while you focus on making decisions and improving KPIs. And I'll pass it back to Susie for our last poll question and same questions.
That's great. Many thanks indeed, Jay, and to CB. So final poll question coming up on your screen now. Have you indeed considered automation, RPA, to transform your credit and accounts receivable processes in the last kind of 12 months? Yes, I'm looking to automate all of credit and accounts receivable processes. Yes, but only in a few process areas. I'm thinking about it, but thinking about it perhaps more for the near future. No, I'm very happy with what we've got in place, or perhaps you're not sure. So if you could press the tick box that best represents your situation, and we'll be closing that poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So closing the poll, we're at 69% of you responding there, which is great. So coming up on your screen, you can see the results. Let's have a look at where everybody is at as far as RPA deployment is concerned. So 24% of you are actively looking for RPA to bring into the AR environment across the board. 31% of you are looking at RPA, but only in a few processes. So that's well over 50% of you just there actively looking for RPA within accounts receivable. 31% of you looking, but in the near future. So really impressive numbers here, representing a real keen interest in RPA adoption. 3% of you are satisfied with this existing solution, and 10% of you are not sure for now. Good. Now, with that, thank you very much. We can move to Q&A. So if you haven't already posted your question, please do so. But let's start with the questions that have already come through from our attendees. The first question, I'll put that to you, please, CB. Great story, and lots of thanks coming through from the audience about the details shared in your story. Can you talk to us a little bit about the kind of the human element of the RPA adoption? How was, well, let's start with the first question. To what degree was senior management behind the adoption of RPA?
So, great question. I would say this was embraced and championed by senior management. And I'm a firm believer, unless somebody at that level champions this, you're not going to get the right outcomes. So I'm very pleased to say this came from the very top. So it was interesting. We were the ones that percolated issues up to the management. They quickly realized the value in going to a shared service solution and also adopting RPA in the key processes. So it was not a hard sell, believe me. I mean, it was one of those happy situations where right from the CEO level down, they embraced the adoption of RPA in our customer to cash processes, in our requisition to pay activities, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And then, thank you, that's good, and it's always great to have senior management really behind a concept like this. As far as at the kind of the staff level, some shared services organizations are reticent to deploy RPA because of a nervousness around how the staff will respond to rolling out RPA. How did you deal with that, and was there a nervousness there within the kind of the culture? And the second question is, what's actually been the impact of RPA on staff? Have you found a kind of a change in skill set at all? What's been the impact?
Great questions again. So I just want to touch back on the earlier question about management support. Remember, management will support anything that derives cash benefit. So it was, again, an easy hill for the management to climb with regard to the benefit. So that they were really early adopters of this. Now, coming back to the impact on our staffing and that stuff, right? So when we created our shared service centers, there was a lot of turmoil. What had to happen was we had to disband the functions. Let me just say about the AR functions. We had AR functions scattered across multiple nations, so we had to close those functions and set up shared service centers. And in many cases, we had to hire people anew. So there was some turmoil with regard to people. We lost some people that had worked for us for many years. So did that affect morale? Yes. So like as with any big change, there was a lot of uncertainty. People didn't know how to react, even from the business side. So while the senior management was a true champion, when you get down to the lower level, the sales reps and so forth, they were very apprehensive how this is going to work, because overnight they lost their local support and they had to call someone in another country, and in some cases spoke a different language to get the support. So it took a while for all that to settle down. So yes, there were initial casualties in terms of how many people we had to let go. And remember, I talked about the efficiencies in FTEs. This was one of them, right? But over the years, the people that have been part of the shared service centers have become really solid, loyal employees. So our labor force today is smaller than it was at the time we adopted the shared service model. We are able to pump out more work, better quality work, and so over the years there has been a transformation. The business has warmed up to the notion of us supporting them. Our people have become better to the point where I would say this: if somebody were to leave my organization, they would not have a problem getting a job somewhere else. Their knowledge base has increased. They have been part of a transformational effort in terms of systems and learning and so forth. So overall, today, as opposed to when we started our shared services journey, it is a much more mature, settled, I would say satisfied, competent organization.
Okay, good. We're down to our last 30 seconds, so a quick fire round from me, if that's okay with you, CB. For automated correspondence, can RPA also handle received answers?
Can RPA also handle what? Received answers?
Yes.
So I'm not clear on that question. So when you say can received answers, so the response from the customers, yes.
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
So those come in, yeah. So those can come in, and yeah, we can handle that as well. So yes,
okay.
Processing the responses from customers can be handled. Yeah.
Okay, good. And another question was, what's the actual software that you're using for your robots that you use?
So receivables management is the SAP product. So we are using SAP where possible. On the credit side, we're using HighRadius Solutions. So they have accelerators. Okay. That's what we're using on the credit side.
And those accelerators from HighRadius is basically the RPA add-on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's the RPA add-on.
Good. Perfect to have absolute clarity on that, because that was just coming through from one of our users, our members. Good. All right. Look, there is an expert session provided by HighRadius. So if you want to register for a complimentary expert guided session to RPA, then please do register with them. There'll be the invitations to register on the follow-up slides that we send through to you. And also do make sure that you join us for our next round of webinars coming up over the next few weeks and months. And also we've got some great conferences that will be relevant for either you or your colleagues in the coming quarter. So please do make sure that you join us for those. Thank you very much for your attendance today, and we look forward to welcoming you next time. Thank you and goodbye.